She is your boy DJ C-NEL, and right now you tuning in to Lords of OTown.
My favorite part about live shows is seeing what demographic the artist brings out, like who's really listening to your music. You can always take a gamble. Like, I'll give an example. I came here when I was off to see Kevin Gates, because I was a big Kevin Gates fan, and to see his demographic not being what I thought it was going to be, you know, people in their mid to early 30s or 20s to 30s. It was all little kids, and it was all just a younger demographic. Really like shocked me. It's just every day there's a different show with people you don't expect seeing, and it's cool to see that music speaks to a wide variety, not who you think, but you know, who feels and gravitates to their music.
Okay, my favorite part about live shows is watching the artist energy. Like, I know a lot of artists personally as like friends, so when I see them perform live, I just love watching them transform. I do. I just love, there's just like a gloss that goes over their face, and they're just like in their zone, and it's like in that moment nothing else matters except like you just rocking out. Like, so I love watching an artist's energy. I love them watching perform. I love their interaction. I love the whole vibe.
So with live shows, you get to hear artists do their thing, right? And you also get to watch how other people in the audience respond to that music. And so the music is a big part of the brand today for agencies. There aren't a lot of jingles left. And so agencies really want to know, you know, how do people move with that music, and what is it, you know, what do they do? You can also get to look around the room and get a sort of a snapshot of the demographics of the room. And so I love live shows because I get to watch artists really do their thing, and I get to watch how the audience responds.
My favorite part about live shows is seeing the crowd's reaction, just hearing them roar and scream your name and recite your own lyrics. I couldn't trade that feeling for the world. I had my first show October 29th, 2017, this past Sunday, and it was amazing. It was greater than what I expected. Never threw a show before, so that was very a lot to focus on, but once I went on that stage, everything went away.
My favorite part about live shows is being lit on stage.
My favorite part about live shows is crowd reaction. Like I said, it's when you're a DJ, you're more than just a DJ. You're also a host as well. So, well, it's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be also a host as well. And it's the fact that if you know what you're doing and you know what to say, the fact that you can control a crowd and pretty much have the crowd do almost anything that you want them to do, it's a very amazing feeling. You know, I remember one event that I did, wasn't that many people. I would say about 300. You know, it was more of a smaller venue that I did, but I was hosting on the mic, and then I told the I forgot what the name of that guy's position was, but he's a guy that does like all the lighting and stuff for the venue. And I said, hey, you should make sure you shut. I was like, shut off all the lights in the venue. And then I was just pretty much going through like a little speech and stuff like that. And I said, you know, everybody put a cell phone up in the air. And when you see that and everything's pitch black dark and everybody puts a lighter or a cell phone in the air, and you're pretty much controlling the crowd, and you actually can make the crowd feel what you're saying, it's a very exhilarating feeling.
Oh my goodness, the most challenging aspect of putting on a live show is definitely the back-end production. Keeping everything on time, keeping people in order. I mean, there's so many shows that people do and they're like, wow, like great production, everything looks so dope. And then on the back end, you were like, really? Because we were just yelling at each other like 20 minutes ago about which artists to pull out and which artists not to pull out. So, I mean, having it organized and staying on top of everything like on the back end production is definitely the most difficult part, because like I said, if you're dealing with a major artist, they're gonna bring an entourage of people, and you're gonna be like, oh, we told you 5 people, and they're gonna be like, well, this is 25, is that okay? And you're gonna be like, no, it's not. And at that point, you have to make a lot of decisions on the spot that you don't want to jeopardize your relationship with that artist or that record label, maybe, but you have to also kind of demand your respect, otherwise people will run late to your shows, people will be late to their set time, people will try to perform extra songs, and you just have to really make sure you're running a tight stage.
So I always joke and say that it's a lot like herding goldfish, you know, in a sense. There's just so many moving parts to the end to a show, and artists, there's the venue itself, and I think everything that can go wrong sort of kind of does go wrong in some aspects to a degree. So you're kind of like a duck on water. You're like real smooth on the top, but underneath you're pedaling like crazy. So putting on a live show is very, very challenging, but the audience has no idea that these things have happened. So yeah, I mean, it's really challenging.
Communication is probably the hardest thing ever to run a live show. If there's last minute changes and no one sees you in an email, or you don't get the said email, you don't get the text message, they don't call you, that's a hard thing. And last minute changes too. So if an artist agreed to something a month ago and everything's good day of, they show up demanding Pellegrino water and a light rig and wireless mics when we don't provide those unless they're ordered or, you know, asked for in advance. That's usually the hardest part about running any live show is communication.
So yeah, one of the biggest challenges when performing, my opinion, is when you don't stretch for a performance. You can pull a muscle. No, seriously, you can pull a muscle. And also when you don't have a proper sound check. I think that's important too, to have a really effective sound check. Sound can make or break a show. So we gotta make sure that your mics are working. I've had times where the mics don't work. I've had moments where like stems are off and just all kinds of things. So sound check is really important.
The most challenging aspect is technical difficulties. That is something that you can't control. That is always on the fly, and you really can't prepare for it. Just the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, and just learning how to control the crowd, controlling the band, and controlling yourself when it happens. Finding the ways to make the best out of the situation.
I would say there are 2 things. The most challenging thing about putting on a live show would definitely be 2 different things. One would be reading your crowd. Sometimes you just have that tough crowd and there's really nothing that you can do to please them. It happens sometimes, you know, and I know sometimes it definitely makes me feel discouraged sometimes, because it's like nothing I can do for these people, you know what I mean? So that can definitely be a challenge when you just don't know, per se. Maybe you're dealing with like a different kind of crowd and you think you know what they want to hear, but sometimes you just don't, you know. Or maybe it's not you, maybe it's just they're not in that mood yet. So that can definitely be a challenge, trying to determine whether it's you or it's them. Another thing I would say that would be a very challenging aspect would be if something goes wrong and you don't know what to do. So let's say, well, actually I'll share an experience. One particular experience that happened to me was before I started, when I started DJing, I had a Windows laptop. And you know, not trying to knock Windows. I know there's a lot of Windows lovers out there, but I had a Windows laptop, and I definitely had the finances at the time to go ahead and get me a MacBook, but I didn't, because I was like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Until my Windows computer crashed in the middle of a live set, and it literally took me probably about 15 minutes to get it back up and running. absolutely hands down the worst thing you can ever do, or the worst thing that can ever happen to you. In that particular situation, there's really nothing you can do other than try to reboot the computer. It literally took about 15 minutes. So invest in the proper equipment that you need to do your job.
A normal day, it's about, depending on the act, it's about 2 to 5 hours of load-in time, depending who the band is, who the act is, what their production calls for. You got about a good 5 to 2 hours before doors even open, just sound check, line checks, equipment load-in, merch setup, all that. And then you go from that to actually getting the doors open. And then there's always the last minute things like, oh, we had a meet and greet we didn't tell anyone about until now, so doors get pushed back a little bit to honor the meet and greets. It's little variables like that tend to happen a lot on certain shows, just little misfires, miscues, but that's generally what it is. And at the end of it, you make sure everyone stays on their time. Running a venue and a bar is like a weird dance. You want to make sure you have enough time to let people drink for the first hour of the show. That's why doors are generally an hour before the show, so people have a chance to get comfortable, drink, make the doors on time. In between each act, you want to allow a 10 to 20 minute break to allow patrons to drink at the bar. Because if you don't allow that, the drinking stops, people are feeling the music, and they don't want to lose their spot in the crowd. So it's making sure everything is on time and running like a Swiss watch to make sure everyone's happy, the bar is satisfied, the artists are satisfied, the customers most of all are happy with the time and are just enjoying everything that we're able to provide for them.
So preparing for a show, I think it's a great idea to go over your music if you're playing, to go over your words, if you're singing, to make sure that your part of it is practiced and you're confident in it. Also, I think it's important to know where you're going to be performing at, and knowing the audience and knowing what kind of crowd it is, and just because you want to be in tune. You don't want to be, expecting this and it's really this, and you're like, oh, you don't let it.
Well, so I don't do a lot of shows, live shows, but generally it's making sure that the venue is set, making sure there are no issues there, making sure that the artists, all the music is in and where it should be. And also making sure that, I think that's the day the phone rings the most. It's like almost like people wait till that day to sort of call you like crazy, either lost getting to the venue, or something happened, or we thought we were going to pick up the following things from the mailbox, but they aren't there, so we can't deliver them. The t-shirts didn't come in. It's all kinds of things that happen. So, but traditionally, we try to get everything done prior to that day.
I prepare for a show definitely by practicing, organizing, and planning. Just writing down everything you need. It definitely does help, because you won't forget anything, and if you do, you always have something to reference on. So just making sure you're on top of your game.
How does the day of a gig and a show usually start? It depends. Like if I have, it honestly depends. It depends on, I guess, like what the event is or what the gig is. Because, some events I'll get booked for a month out, meaning that like I've gradually like prepared music, I've done a walkthrough, maybe they've sent me specific music that they want in the show, and then I just kind of build my DJ set around the music that I know that people want in the show. So I try to find similar music or music that I like that I think would be cool, and I put it into that. So if I have time like that, then it's like, cool, I can build a set. If it's like, hey, it's Thursday and we want to book you to DJ downtown at, ONO on Saturday, right? Obviously I don't have a lot of time, or some people will call me and be like, hey, this DJ didn't show up, you want to do the opening set tonight at ONO or wherever. And for those things, I literally just have like a go-to playlist that I'm like, cool, let me just download whatever is popping, whatever. Like I'll text other DJs. Like I have a huge network of DJs, and I'll be like, what are you playing right now? Or what does this club play from week to week to week that's like popping on Saturdays? Because sometimes, like there's a Saturday it might be a hip-hop, another night it might be R&B, sometimes it might be more ratchet for, and that like a general word. So if I have time, I like to go and vibe out to the night before I go and play with it. So like the day of, I'm like prepared music-wise. But if it's a show, if it's an event, I mean, usually I pray. If it's a show or it's an event that we have, I usually say a pretty intense prayer just to set my intention on the situation and make sure that I stay on point. So, I mean, I don't really have like a routine. It's more like, make sure you're there at your call time, make sure you make sound check, make sure that everybody is accounted for. And then once everything is set up in place and get through sound check, my anxiety leaves once sound check is done. Because I'm like, cool, everybody is here, everybody's sound checked, the production and the sound is all right, we're good to go.
Usually the way a show starts for me is sound check. It really depends on the actual venue too and what I'm actually doing. But let's say if it's just me alone for that night and it's just like a corporate event, it usually starts off with me having to pack up my car, put all my speakers in there, you know, and then setting everything up and then doing sound check before the actual time it comes by for me to actually go ahead and press play and start DJing. Or if it's like at a club or something like that and I'm not the first DJ up, then, you know, I just pretty much just go up there, plug my laptop in and just go to work. So one of those two ways.
People not showing up for whatever reason, things happening. People get sick, you know, they're human beings. And so I think that's probably the biggest issue that we've had. People expected to be there and can't be there, and we have to bring someone else in for the show.
The biggest issue I've dealt with a show was not being able to hear myself. That is the biggest thing, because you can't tell if you're off key, you can't tell if you're not on key, and you know, you're just looking at the crowd to see, can y'all hear me? And it's just a lot going on in your mind. So communication is definitely important.
Biggest issue I've ever dealt with a show is a rental. We had a promoter rented the venue from us and said the venue was going to pay the artists, and at the end of the night the show didn't do too well and the promoter disappeared, and we got in trouble with their management for whatever reason. And you know, again, the lack of communication, the promoter dip in, you know, just shady people make it harder.
The biggest issue that I personally ever dealt with a show, I would say definitely was that last question you asked me, or that last answer I gave you where my computer crashed. But another particular incident was there were too many DJs on the night. And when you have so many DJs on the night, it really does affect the quality of the night, because especially if you don't have the proper equipment to, you know, switch out the DJs properly, because then you have like this dead space air every time a DJ comes on. So every hour, you know, you're waiting like however many couple minutes, you know, well, not minutes per se, but however many couple seconds of just dead space for your DJ to switch out, you know. And then it's just like a lot of talking over the mic, and then, you know, because they're still trying to keep the crowd interacted and stuff like that. So that's more so a pet peeve really than an issue. I feel like it does affect the quality of the nights.
I was just DJ'd for a Revolve Music Conference. So I DJ'd for an artist named Tanir. She is a like pop R&B artist that's on Slip and Slide. So what we were filming for was a live show. So when I got there, it was like I was her DJ. So we were filming basically like an episode for the show, and it's like I'm her DJ, which means I have her show set, I have her music that she's going to be performing, and her dancers are going to be dancing to. I played the show track, everything played completely fine in my DJ controller. I had talked to the sound person, they know what equipment I had, so in theory you're like all good to go. It's going to be a plug and play situation. Mind you, we're filming, not live, but we're filming for a show. And I go to plug in and my computer starts acting completely like erratic, like completely like crazy. And like in the middle of it, like we're talking like the host of Revolve, like the label, everybody was there, and they're like, okay, you guys ready? And I'm like, no. Like I literally had to like shut my laptop off, and they were getting ready to bring the dancers on stage, and I was like, stop. Like stop. Because the last thing I would want for an artist to do, because I always like to put myself in the artist position when I'm DJing like a show set for them, right? it's like, so I literally had to walk on stage, walk down the stairs and be like, look, stop the girls, stop Tanir, do not come up on stage because my show track is messing up and I don't want these girls to jeopardize all these people that are watching Revolt TV watch my show track possibly not play correctly. And so in the moment, it's like I had to basically stop them from filming a segment for the show to make sure that I had time to restart my computer. Like, I had to plug in, we had my DJ controller in our like hotel suite, and I had to get somebody to go grab that from the hotel suite, plug it in, and plug into my laptop within like, it seemed like 20 minutes, but it really happened in like less than 5 that somebody like ran to do this. But it was like the longest 5 minutes like ever, I would say. And like legit, I had to plug in my my controller. I had to like download a software like on the fly for this show to even like keep filming. So at the like getting through it was definitely like doing what's best like for the artist, which is let's not even start this situation until it's appropriate. And it's hard because it's like if 2 minutes feels like 100 when there's a million people watching you.